Welcome to Cafecito y Calidad. I'm your host, Elizabeth Sanchez, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified coffee enthusiast. Whether we're connecting with friends or studying for a big exam or just grounding with a little caffeinated cozy goodness, coffee brings us together. It powers us up and it gives us a reason to sit down and connect. Each week, I'll be sitting down with a different holistic healer to discuss their journey and ways in which they use alternative healing methods to help heal themselves and their clients. But first, let's take a sip of something warm and comforting, shall we? Today, we're going to be talking about Chamberlain Coffee, a brand that's all about providing a premium, highly caffeinated experience. You guys might be familiar with popular founder Emma Chamberlain, a young woman who loves coffee and shares some down-to-earth mental health experiences of her own online. Today I'm having the Fancy Mouse blend, which is stated to be the most powerful of all of her blends. I can't wait to have this highly caffeinated conversation. Let's begin. Hi, and welcome to Cafecito y Calidad. I'm Elizabeth Sanchez, a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I'm joined by my dear friend Noemy. She's a trauma-sensitive yoga instructor, as well as a nurse who specializes in mental health. We'll be discussing the ways in which therapy and yoga can support the healing process for trauma survivors, and how they can be used together to address the physical, emotional, and psychological effects of trauma. So, Noemy, let's start by defining what trauma is.
Yeah, so I really love how Dr. Gabor Mate speaks to trauma. So he states that trauma is not about the event that happened to us. It's more about how it changed the nervous system. So how it changed us inside due to that event. So that's really beautiful because just how that happened, we can reverse that, right?
Yeah, I also want to add with regards to trauma is also how our support system supports us through those difficult experiences, right? Being a therapist, I oftentimes get clients who have very little support after a traumatic experience. So I think some examples of trauma are, growing up with a family member who struggles with addiction.
Absolutely.
Right? Eating disorders, right, are developed from trauma.
Yeah, or, growing up with parents who didn't support us emotionally, didn't know how to feel their emotions, right? So it was more of, go to your room, or, they didn't mirror what it feels, or what it is, not feels, what it is to feel emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, some other types of trauma can also be vicarious trauma. So trauma that maybe we weren't physically impacted by, but maybe we witnessed. So lots of our military, first responders, our doctors experience a lot of vicarious trauma.
Right. Also accidents, right?
100%.
That can be car accidents or any other accident that you have, any physical trauma that you have happens to happen to your body, any type of medical challenge, there you go, sexual abuse or physical neglect, right? That type of environment.
Yeah. And we don't want to forget our multi-generational trauma, which is what we both, work a lot with in our work, is trauma that has been passed down from generation to generation. That can look like substance abuse, eating disorders. People just like, oh, my mom was like that, or my grandma was like that, right? So it's more of an example, and they don't break it. They see it as normal. Yeah.
Right? They don't know the root cause of what is really happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can therapy and yoga complement each other in the healing process for trauma survivors?
Well, when clients come to me, they're very dysregulated. And what does that even mean? That just simply means that they do not feel safe in their body.
Yeah.
They do not feel safe in their body. Stillness is very difficult for a lot of people, right? We easily get distracted at the first sign of discomfort.
Yes.
So in a trauma-sensitive yoga, it's a very slow-paced body practice where the student begins to lean towards feeling the body, feeling the sensations that they probably been numbed out from for so long. So it's a matter of reconnecting to their system, to their body. So they're in a state of, in their nervous system, in their state of sympathetic.
Yes.
right? So in a yoga practice, in the slow yoga practice, we often invite the student to feel sensations of relaxation. So come back to the parasympathetic nervous system, and then we activate them a little bit. So we go from parasympathetic to sympathetic, and then the student eventually learns that, hey, I could feel okay, maybe for 3 breaths. So it's empowering for them to finally tap into what they're feeling and be able to hold it or stay in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an EMDR therapist myself. So when you said going from activation to, the parasympathetic to rest and digest, we call that pendulation. So that's really helpful when it comes to therapy, because I'm getting clients who are completely numb. Or on the opposite end, very dysregulated. So having one of my clients actually attend your trauma-sensitive yoga is very beneficial, because not only are they leaving with tools such as breath work, right? Feeling a little bit more connected to their body, that now translates into the therapy room. They're able to maybe access a little bit more of that trauma that's been keeping up stuck. So yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Right.
100%.
Right. And it's finding resource. I love that word, because in a trauma sensitive session, I offer tools, and all of us are different.
Yes.
So what may work for you may not work for me, right? So there's a lot of tools, whether it's grounding, whether it's meditation, whether it is shaking, right? But it all goes back to the nervous system. What makes you feel safe in your body? What allows you to feel settled, right? So you begin to learn resources, and then they take them to your, to your session.
Absolutely.
And then they're able to speak about whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because they actually won't even be able to tap into that unless they feel safe, which is right, our parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think our work really goes hand in hand, and we notice even, bigger differences once we work together, or we see our clients. Yes.
Yeah. And we have been working together for a
very long time.
We met so long ago.
I know.
In what ways can yoga and mindfulness practices be used to help individuals manage their emotions and reduce stress?
Yeah, so in stillness, the student has a choice. That is huge, because the student has the choice whether I want to be here for a little longer or I want to exit, right? Because in a trauma event or whatever kind of trauma they had, they didn't have that choice, right? It happened too fast. So back to the emotions, they are able to tolerate a little better. They're able to manage what they're feeling instead of going from 0 to 100. So that's how we manage and tolerate our emotions in a nervous system restoration, because we're now regulating our system. Yeah.
Yeah, I think on my end as a therapist, it taps into boundaries, right? So many clients who have experienced trauma, their boundaries have been crossed. And that's the trauma in itself, right? People overstepping their boundaries. And the fact that you're able to help them and bring opportunities for choice, I can use that to resource that in our session. How did it feel when you went with Noemy and she offered that opportunity to take one breath, or how many breaths you feel comfortable with? Most of my clients have never been asked that before.
Yeah.
And that's super powerful, super empowering. And I use that in our session. I integrate it into their work, and we call it in EMDR world, install that, so that they can carry it, and it's installed in their nervous system. It's installed in their memory network, and they carry it as a tool. So I think it's very powerful.
Yeah, and the more they practice that, right? This is why it's a daily practice, whether it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, whatever you choose, right? Choice. You choose to feel what you're feeling in that moment. And in our sessions is also a breath to breath type of choice, right? It's not in 10 minutes. It's right here. What's happening right here? What's present, right? Bringing that body awareness, bringing present moments right here, right?
And Noemi, that's uncomfortable for a lot of people too, which is also stuff they bring into our therapy session. I was so uncomfortable when Noemi had me breathe encouraged me to breathe for a minute, a couple seconds.
Exactly.
Right?
But then they get really good at it. I continue to practice it, right? So we all learn how to deal with discomfort.
Absolutely.
So I expose you to feel the discomfort, sure, but in a contained environment, right? You're contained. You trust me. You're with me, right? It's a one-to-one session, so you trust whatever's happening, and we have worked on tools to resource first.
Yes.
And then we can settle here.
And that's important before they can even dive into the trauma work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot can be released in a session as well, right? Yeah. Sometimes things become revealed to them.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they weren't aware that this thigh held on to some stuff, right? Or because the body keeps the score.
Oh, yeah.
We know that.
Yeah. And that's what I start noticing when clients come into session. They're like, oh, with Noemy, I have this moment of emotion. I started crying. Okay, well, let's explore that. Let's tap into that. And that's when we start seeing that magic happen, right? The work they do with you is all the body work. And then now they come in and they can go even deeper.
Yeah, I like that you brought this up because, a release can be emotional release. A lot of our clients don't know how to cry, right? I mean, none of us like to cry, but some of us can tolerate it more than others, right? Or we can tap into, hey, crying is a human experience.
Yeah.
It's okay, right? It's okay to let that go.
Yes.
So,
yeah. How can these practices be integrated into daily life to promote overall well-being?
Breathe, practice breath, practice grounding. Even setting an alarm in your phone and ask, how am I breathing? Yeah. Because if you're stressed, you forget to breathe, right? To your friend. Yeah. So, but then it's so beautiful because it becomes second nature. Yeah. Whether you're driving in traffic and you're upset, or hey, I can breathe. I can feel my toes.
My toes, feel my hands.
Yeah. Present moment awareness. That's all it is. Perfect. And that's how we restore our nervous system.
And that's what I can do also to integrate in my therapy sessions is like, how's just your breathing right now in this moment, right?
That's it.
Well, I'm holding my breath. Well, we tend to hold our breath when we're also in pain. So, which are many of the clients that we work with, right?
Yeah.
Fortunate.
Yeah. They hold on to a lot of pain. Yeah.
How does trauma impact the mind, body, and spirit? And how can yoga and mindfulness practices support healing and integration of all three?
Trauma literally changes your brain. It's the client is in a state of hyperactivity or the opposite of that, completely numbed out, completely frozen in time, right?
Oh, yeah.
I love that because it's so real. Like I witness this so often. Yeah. So it impacts it heavily, so heavily. So now the client does not know what present time is. Right? Like they struggle because the brain is only sending signals of danger.
The amygdala too, right?
Yeah.
The amygdala, the fire alarm system, the cortisol, everything's being released.
Yeah, and that's what I mean in frozen in time because this might have happened a decade ago or last week or who knows, right? It's not your current reality. However, your brain can detect that. The signals continue to fire danger. From your brain to your body. We're all connected. So,
well, I think we can definitely talk about, right? Like even when we practice EMDR and yoga together, right? Like with EMDR, we are tapping really into those past traumatic memories because when we get triggered, we get reactivated, we go back to that experience, right? So when we've worked together, right? Like you're able to be there as that supportive, resource while all this emotion's coming up, and we're creating a different experience for our clients so that, they can work on slowly moving past it.
Yeah. And that's the key, slowly at your own pace. Yeah.
Let's talk, before we move on to the next one, let's talk about the spirit. How have you noticed in the work that you've done, like that trauma has impacted the spirit?
Well, there's a lot of self-critical talk in someone who's gone through that type of trauma, or even that self-worth, right? So that affects your spirit. That affects your day-to-day life. And when you create a space that allows healing for your body, you come back to yourself.
Yeah.
You come back to yourself. I like to say you come back home and your body is whole.
Yeah.
But you've left that for some time, right? So, yeah, so
And it goes back to, holistically working with someone, bringing us back home.
Yeah.
Mind, body, and spirit, right?
this is all connected. Yeah.
How can yoga be used to help individuals heal and reconnect with their bodies in a safe and supportive way?
Well, it just goes back to what we spoke about. It's giving you the tools to resource, right? And, healing also happens in a therapeutic way when you trust someone and building relationships, right? And community, right? So you trust someone, you're able to let go, whether that's an emotion, whatever you want to shake and get really wild on your mat, whatever it is, you're expressing yourself, right? So
And people often don't do that and that's very vulnerable. And vulnerability equals trust, equals healing, equals coming back home.
yes, coming back home, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, so creating that space for someone to creating that space for them to just be themselves. And there's healing because oftentimes they don't have that. They don't have that support,
Yeah.
right? Where they can simply just be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are the benefits of combining talk therapy with movement and breath work and treatment? And how can this approach be used to address the physical and emotional effects of trauma? Well, where do we start?
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about this, but no, I definitely think with breath work, once again, lots of my clients are often holding their breath. They forgot the last time they actually took a deep breath, because that also means they have to come back to their body. And for a lot of clients, trauma survivors, that's unsafe, right? That means I have to remember those past experiences. That means I have to relive those emotions. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. But I think in the way that you approach it, Noemi, it is so safe. It is a different experience. And I think we forgot to also mention like neuroplasticity, right? Like we're literally changing the brain by helping our clients breathe.
Yeah. Exactly.
By allowing our clients to share these experiences as seeing them, as witnessing them.
Yeah.
We're the first sometimes.
Yeah, we are. And it's really beautiful when the client can say, oh, I finally was able to take a deep breath for the first time in so long, right? Because they have been holding on. Yeah. And
No, but I think absolutely. I think, and then with physical, I think I can, talk a little bit about that. My clients often come with, I work a lot with, first gen, BIPOC. They come in, Elizabeth, have migraines, my back hurts, my stomach hurts, I have IBS, I have all these medical issues. And when we start exploring them through EMDR or just through therapy, we start exploring the sensation. And the minute we do, all these emotions, all these memories start to come up. And they're like, well, that's how I felt when this happened, just by noticing that experience. So not only do they get that in therapy, they also get that opportunity too through your work with movement, correct?
Right, correct. Yeah, they experience a lot in a session. But they also have the tools, right, to resource.
Yeah, especially with our, I think before we move on to that, the next question, I think really like our BIPOC community, this is literally, our work.
Yeah.
We're taught, we don't always have the words for how we're feeling. It's all manifested in our body. That's why the work we do is so powerful, is we're meeting our clients where they're at.
Yes, exactly. We, in one of my sessions with someone, it's more of like, I'll meet you wherever you are at, right? Because everyone displays different symptoms.
Yeah.
Some may be super hyperactive and some may be completely shut down, super depressed, or having all the feelings of anxiety.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. How can yoga and mindfulness practices be used as a tool for self-regulation and self-care, and how can they be incorporated into daily life to improve overall well-being?
Well, incorporate it by practicing it daily. Practice feeling, practice the activation slowly, leaning in towards it, and using the tools of grounding.
Yeah.
Using the tools of grounding, and coming back to whatever feels safe in that moment, that breath for your body.
How can therapy and yoga complement each other in a healing process for trauma survivors?
That's yours.
Yeah, no, I think I've mentioned it already, but I can elaborate a little bit. I think the yoga really, really definitely helps with the resourcing, but also to uncover you're doing a lot of the body work. I do too, but it's in a different way. I think that there's a lot of times where you are able to access even more of those, maybe, I like to call them like blocked memories, or clients disassociate when they've experienced, we all disassociate, but clients who've experienced trauma disassociate even more. So I think that you are able to access more of that, and it helps me move on and help them even through their trauma work.
Yeah, because it's such a slow pace.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're in it. You're not running away. You're not going to your cell phone. You're not going to social media. You're not distracting away from what the signals of the body are giving you, right? You're not distracting from that. You're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where all that stuff, all that trauma comes out. So, Noemi, one of the things we really haven't tapped into is the window of tolerance. I think we've briefly mentioned it, but we really haven't dived into the window of tolerance. So,
yeah, I love the analogy of sailing through that window where you don't have to go all the way up and you don't have to go all the way down, right? So literally sailing through. And meditation opens up this window for you if you stick to it, if you stick to stillness, if you stick to using all your resources, all your tools that your body does have internally. We have so much internal wisdom.
yeah.
So in a meditation practice, if you stick to it, we do have the opportunity to open up.
Yes.
Right. To that self-love, that compassion for ourselves, for the world.
Yeah.
Right. Because if we're shut down, we also shut down for the good. Right. So when we open up, we're open for more joy, more gratitude, more self-love, and more love for others. And you can tap into that inner calm, inner peace. Right. And I also want to say how it does not matter what happened to you. Right. It's despite everyone's past, despite the story you do have, there is healing out there.
Yeah. And that goes with our shame work, right? Like working on I'm bad.
Oh my God. Yes.
Which is, we hear it in our trauma survivors, right? That I'm bad. I was deserving of this. It's my fault. And that self-compassion work is kind of the antidote.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To heal that.
Right. That is the antidote. Absolutely.
Let's talk about creating a comprehensive, holistic treatment plan for better mental health. How would we go about doing that?
Yeah, we've done this before.
We have.
We've definitely done this before. Yeah. Well, I would suggest I meet with this client 2 times a week. I'm not sure. What do you think about them meeting with you, Hall?
Ideally, it would be weekly. It depends on the work that they're doing. So they have the option to do twice a week, but at least once a week for me.
Yeah. And ideally, we both meet the client at the same time, right? We show up and offer the resource tools pre the EMDR session, right? And then they have the choice whether they want me next to them in case they want different resources or just back to that safety piece, right?
Yeah. And then I would, after we've done some resourcing at the beginning of session, we can then tap into an EMDR. We talk about like a target memory, which is just an experience that they want to process. We can spend maybe 30 to maybe 45 minutes. An ideal EMDR session is 90 minutes, but we can do 30 to 40 minutes. We're processing that experience. And at the end, I think it's helpful that you come in as well, or even during the EMDR to do some breath work, some grounding, resourcing. If, that trauma gets a little bit too dysregulated, then you can come in at the end.
Yeah, that's actually what we have done. Yes, in betweens. Yeah. And then at the end of sessions, and we'll have a longer session with me in a parasympathetic state in their nervous system.
Yeah. And in that second session, I mean, what would that look like? So if I'm not there, they're not doing any of that work, then kind of what we've talked about, right? Like they'll be doing more resource.
Yeah. Coming back to that resource that you've accumulated, right? That you feel safe with. Yeah, that resource coming back. It's the same one sometimes for a very long time until, hey, this one also made me feel good.
Yeah.
So it changes. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to also mention, we can also do the EMDR while they're doing certain yoga poses. I know we've, incorporated that in the past.
Yeah.
So instead of doing an EMDR, we do eye movements. They can do tapping. And we can or audio. So we can incorporate some bilateral music to kind of try to activate some of that trauma that's been blocked.
Yeah.
And you're there, they're doing the body movement, and they're able to process even deeper.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So good. Such good work.
So thank you so much, Noemi. I know we're going to go into some of the tips that you're going to, some grounding tips, but thank you so much for joining us at Cafecito y Calidad. It's been so great. You're full of knowledge, wisdom, and you have a heart of gold. And, I love working with you.
My pleasure. It's been an honor to be here. Yeah. Thanks. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.